Oh my. Oh my. For the second game in a row, Carter Hart gets a shutout. He is the fifth goaltender all time to get back-to-back shutouts. The last was Felix Potvin. So that right there is saying something. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, the Flyers, they pick up a 2-0 win over the Montreal Canadiens here in Game 4, and they have put a stranglehold on this series now, as they're now up 3-1 here in the first round. Again, guys, what is up? My name is Chris. Today, the Flyers, as I said, they pick up a 2-0 win here, and they now have a 3-1 series lead. So, a couple of things going into this game. No James Van Riemsdyk for this one, and no Nicholas Aube-Kubel. JVR, I think it was just more for effort and his play. Didn't really look like JVR was doing the best of things out there and the things that we know he can do. So I think that was kind of obvious why he was out of the lineup. Joel Farabee is in for him. As for Nicholas Aube-Kubel, I thought Aube-Kubel has been playing really good recently. I think he's made a lot of strides to really pick up his game. I think he's played good with all of his line mates. I know he switched around the lines a few times, but I think he's played really good. I think the reason why he was out is because if you remember in that last game, he had blocked a shot around his foot area later in the third period of Game 3, and he kind of limped off the ice. It did not look good. It didn't really look comfortable either, and I think that was one of the reasons why. So Connor Bunnaman was in for him. The Flyers had a huge mix of lines for the offense. Defense was still the same with Provorov, Niskanen, Sanheim, Myers, and Hag was still with Braun. Obviously Carter Hart and net. But as for the offense, for a while of it, you saw guys like Giroux. He was with Lawton and Grant. Coots was with Voracek and Raffle. I mean, there was just a huge mix. Hayes was with TK and Farabee. Then you still had Bunnaman, Thompson, and Pitlick. So starting off here in the first period, it was a really good start for the Flyers. Really solid start. They had some chances. They just got to shoot more. But again, they really started to shoot more. They got some chances, and they were really starting to really test Carey Price. And this is where the first goal of the game really starts to come in. They had a couple 2-on-1s, couldn't really get anything going. They get like a fortunate play here, a really good back check by Coots to really make this play happen because the turnover happens. Voracek throws it across the blue line and hits Raffle's skate. I honestly thought this was offside at first because it's just the way it was. I thought it was going to get called, or if the Flyers were to end up scoring, which they did, I thought it was going to get reviewed. Nope, nothing. It hits Raffle's skate, goes up to Couturier, drops it back to Raffle, and he snipes it over Price. It was funny because the one angle they had, it was just one where it was right where Raffle was, like right behind him where you can see the shot, and you see the defenseman, I believe it was Petrie on the ice, and you see the defenseman, and you see Price way over, and if that hit the knob of Price's stick or any of his stick, that's not going in unless it takes a fortunate bounce and goes in. But again, it was a snipe, and it looked like Price was off his angle, reminding me of that Provorov goal versus Braden Holtby where he scored glove side, and he skated in and sniped it on Holtby, and that gave the Flyers the lead in that game as well. That's what this goal reminded me of. It was a great shot and a really good drop pass. I really liked how that line and really all four lines played in this game. We'll definitely get into that in a little bit. And then the Flyers ended up getting a power play a little bit later. It was actually a really good power play. First unit was pretty good. They were out there for about a minute 15. Second unit, they struggled to really get the puck in, couldn't really get much going. They ended up going 0 for 3 on the power play today, but they looked really good. They had a couple chances. They did have a crossbar, but again, sadly, there wasn't any goals, but I think it was a huge improvement from these last two games where they went 0-5, 0 for 6 today, only 0 for 3. But again, it was a really solid period. They had a few turnovers in this game really later in the last 10 minutes, but I think the biggest thing was that they had the turnovers, but they really recovered well from them, right? So that was the thing. The Flyers, they've recovered well from everything, and I think that's been huge for them because I think the biggest thing that they've done in these last two games is they've had the forward basically come back and play like a third defenseman, and that's been huge because it really sets up, it really, I guess it takes away the whole Canadiens forecheck that they're trying to set something up because you either have that defenseman go in and pin a guy on the glass. Really, it's whatever two defensemen are out there. They're very physical. They're active on the puck, active sticks, and the forward comes in, gets it over to the defenseman, or they just take it right out of the zone, and the Flyers are breaking out the other way. So that's a big thing they did. Shots were 11-4 Flyers after the first period. Starting up the second period here, the second period was really like back and forth. To be honest, it seemed like the Flyers were, I guess you could say they were just, I don't know, to me it seemed like I thought they had a good second period, but I think the biggest thing was that they were kind of just, it seemed like it was just more back and forth. They weren't really trying to press the play. And again, they ended up taking a penalty. They had a really good penalty kill, very aggressive and smart. They generated a couple offensive chances as well. A little bit into this period, the Flyers ended up getting a goal here. It was from Phil Myers. It was kind of like one of them goals. It was just a real cheeky goal. And the way it went in is Myers, he took the ice that he had advantage. He shoots it. It goes off Mete's stick and deflects to Price, hits off his pad, his stick, and deflects in. That is like a real momentum killer, especially in a 1-0 game. And if you're Price, you 100% want that one back. Good for Myers. It wasn't as good as the one he scored against Boston where he sniped it over Halak. But hey, the puck went in, and I was glad because you know what? The Flyers, I wanted that other cushion, and they got that 2-0 lead going into the second period here. I thought the period was really back and forth. I thought the Canadiens had their chances, but again, the Flyers really kept everything to the outside, so that was huge as well. But again, the shots after that period were 18-5 Canadiens. Flyers were outshot 10-5 in the period. So again, you see where it started to come in there in that period where the Canadiens started to get a little bit of life, but as I said, nothing really major. I think the biggest chance they had was a 2-on-1 late in the first period, and it was kind of just like a play where I think it was Belzile. He just ripped it really high and wide, really. It looked like it was a real dangerous chance, but he kind of flubbed the shot a little bit as well. But again, no harm done, and the Flyers, they exit the period with a 2-0 lead here. Starting off the period, it was a really another solid start. The Flyers played the game where they wanted it, and they had the game where they wanted it as well. It was like, because the way that they played, they were smart. They were eating up time in the zone. They were generating chances, and the way that they were generating chances and offensive, with the forecheck and things like that, they generated power plays. They ended up getting 2 here. They had really 2 good shifts with a lot of pressure and good forechecking, and that one ended up drawing a power play. Coots ended up getting high sticked in the face. I personally thought he drew blood at first, but nothing. But again, they didn't score on that one. But again, lots of good chances. I thought both units were good again. With the, as I said before, with that second unit kind of being a little off on the first one. But again, it was a really good power play this time. Again, couldn't really get much going. They kind of had this one play where Giroux threw it off the end of the boards, and Voracek threw it out in front. Looked like Farabee went to get it, and he got like cross-checked and slashed at the same time, went down to the ice. But again, I thought the Flyers did a good job on the power play here, because just the way that they were moving the puck, and then you saw earlier in the game, in the pregame, they were huddling as a power play unit, looking at things they could do. They had like a little whiteboard out, drawing some plays up and talking with each other. So that is a huge improvement, because these guys know too. And I think another thing is that I think the stats would look better too if the power play was working. So again, I think the Flyers, I thought they did a really good job on the power play today, even though nothing came from it. Again, it was still 100% an improvement from these last 2 games, and really from everything in total. I think this was their best game power play wise, even though they didn't score in really this whole tournament that goes from the exhibition game through the round robin and through these first 4 games. But again, Flyers, they ended up taking the penalty. Nate Thompson makes an unbelievable block here on Weber. He lays down, blocks the shot, where we saw a couple times where it got, at one point Weber had 4 shots on goal and 3 of them were blocked. So that right there is huge, because obviously Weber, with the bullet that he has, the Flyers were really stepping in. They were really blocking shots. And some of the guys like Hag, Raffle, Thompson, they were flat out warriors today. They were blocking shots. They were physical. They were making smart plays. I have really liked Nate Thompson in these playoffs. I think he's been one of the, I guess you could say, the unsung hero, really. He hasn't really done much offensively, hasn't scored or anything like that. Oh, actually, he has scored, excuse me. He did score in the round robin, but as for the first round, he hasn't scored or anything like that. But again, he's played really good, where he's just been good on the forecheck, good defensively. He's winning faceoffs, and he's doing his job. And I think he's been a great addition, really, to this team. And honestly, that goes for Derek Grant as well. I thought he's been great again. But, the Flyers, they ended up getting another power play here. They had a crossbar on this one. But again, it'll come if you start to shoot. To be honest with you, Giroux has a 2-on-1 here, and he has to shoot that. I don't know why he didn't. It was late in the period. Could have had a 3-0 lead. It was like a little turnover. And and it's funny because Bill Clement said it perfectly. He was like, I think Giroux has lost the confidence in being able to score, and I was like, dude, that's just huge, because you have to shoot that puck. You're Claude Giroux. You have a really good shot, especially when you have that much time and space and the ice like that, where you can get your legs going and get a shot. He doesn't shoot, and it ended up generating, it kind of just went to the boards. But even still, the Flyers had a lot of 2-on-1s this game. I wish they'd shoot more. They started to. Farabee had one. He shot it. Almost went in. Hayes had one as well. He shot it. It was just kind of like a chest save for Price. But even still, they're getting a lot of chances with the 2-on-1s and things like that, but they're just not scoring. I think really once they start to get it going, and it's just going to open the floodgates in one of these games. I'm calling it right now. But again, Going into this game, as I said, I was expecting a really high offensive game. I know that did not happen. The shots after this game were 29-22 in favor of Montreal. It's a 3-1 series lead for the Flyers. As I said, they have the stranglehold on the series. I think one thing they did really well was just the way that their forwards dropped back and played good on the forecheck, and I guess you could say for the defensive forecheck, where they just swallowed everything the Canadiens were everything the Canadiens were throwing. The Flyers were just really just swallowing it up, and they were playing so good defensively where it was just quick outs, and they were doing so good defensively in this game. To be honest with you, I'm really excited for this game tomorrow. So the game tomorrow it's a back-to-back now. So game tomorrow is at 8 o'clock. We will see Aubé-Kubel. I personally like the way Bunneman played. I thought that line was great. As I said, all 4 lines were great today. I guess we'll see what happens coming up here for the game tomorrow. Again, as I said, 8 o'clock, Game 5. We'll see what happens. Hopefully the Flyers can seal the deal tomorrow and move on to the second round of the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. Remember, guys, thank you so much for all the support you've been giving me. I hopped on the Flyers Nitty Gritty podcast the other day with Yariv. It was actually yesterday, as I said the other day. But again, it was a fun time. Please go check that out. And again, guys, remember, podcast articles, those links are on my channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next one. And remember, Carter Hart has 2 shutouts in 2 games, and the Canadiens have not scored in, I think, over 130 minutes. So again, remember, guys, let's go Flyers.